Thanksgiving this year, my daughter-in-law looked straight at me and said, "We're having dinner at a restaurant. There really isn't space for you, Mom." Her voice was calm, polite, almost cheerful. I smiled and told her I understood. But inside, something cracked. For more than 3 decades, Thanksgiving had lived in my hands. I was the one who woke before sunrise to prepare the turkey, who polished the table until it shone, who waited for the sound of doors opening and voices filling the house. I measured time not by calendars, but by holidays and the people who showed up for them. And suddenly, I wasn't one of those people anymore. That night, instead of letting myself fall apart, I opened my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I booked a flight to Paris. 2 days later, I posted a photo online. Me standing near the Eiffel Tower, smiling beside a man who looked like he belonged on the cover of a magazine. When my son saw it, he called me in tears. He had no idea who the man was. And honestly, neither did anyone else. But that's where this story truly begins. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from, because this story is about how being excluded led me to the most unforgettable Thanksgiving of my life. My name is Grace Dalton. I'm 62 years old. I'm a retired literature teacher, and I've been a widow for 7 years. I live in a modest house in Portland, Oregon, surrounded by a garden my late husband planted with his own hands. The roses bloom every spring like clockwork, as if he's still here reminding me that life goes on. From the outside, my life looks calm. Inside, it's been painfully quiet. My son, Michael, is 35. He's my only child. I raised him with everything I had, and loving him has always come naturally, even when it hurts. He married Tara 3 years ago. She's intelligent, driven, and runs a successful online fashion brand. In public, she's charming, confident, the kind of woman people admire instantly. But when she looks at me, there's a distance in her eyes, as if I belong to a chapter she's eager to close. I've always tried to be gracious. I thank her for invitations, even when they're rare. I bite my tongue when I feel dismissed. I tell myself that love means adjusting. But over time, it became clear. I wasn't being adjusted in. I was being edged out. Holidays were once the heart of my world. When my husband was alive, Thanksgiving meant controlled chaos, friends, neighbors, relatives crowding into the house. Music playing too loud. Stories overlapping. Someone always sneaking pie before dinner. It was messy. It was warm. It was love. After my husband passed away, I kept hosting. I thought it would help Michael stay connected to his father's memory. For a while, it worked. Then Tara came into his life. The visits became shorter. The smiles more strained. One year they arrived late. Another year they stayed just long enough for dessert. This year, when I called to ask about plans, Tara answered. Her tone was overly sweet. "Oh, Grace," she said, "we made reservations this year. It'll just be us and a few friends. The restaurant is small. You understand, right?" I stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the pie dough beneath my hands. "Of course," I replied softly. "Have a wonderful time." When the call ended, the silence felt heavier than anything I'd known. I removed my apron. Sat down at the table. Looked at the empty chairs. And for the first time, I understood something terrifying. I had no one coming. The next morning, I made a decision. I was done waiting to be included. If my family didn't have space for me, maybe the world did. That afternoon, I opened my email and saw a message I'd ignored for months, from an old college friend named Alexander Devo. We hadn't spoken in decades, but I remembered him well. Thoughtful. Curious. The kind of man who listened deeply. The email read, "If you ever find yourself in Europe, come visit. Paris still owes us a conversation." I stared at the screen longer than I meant to. Then I searched flights. Paris felt impossible. Impractical. Something younger women did. But something inside me whispered, why not now? I booked the ticket. No hesitation. A round-trip flight leaving 2 days before Thanksgiving. When I closed the laptop, my chest felt lighter than it had in years. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and raised it to the empty room. To new beginnings, I whispered. The morning of my flight, I woke before dawn. The house hummed quietly around me. I made coffee. Took one last look at the kitchen where so many holidays had been born. This year, I wasn't cooking. This year, I was choosing myself. At the airport, families hurried past me, children clutching stuffed animals, couples holding hands. It stung. But when I boarded the plane, something shifted. I promised myself I would stop shrinking. Paris greeted me with cold air and endless motion. I checked into a small hotel near Montmartre, old floors, tall windows, a street alive with sound. That first night, I wandered into a cafe, ordered soup and quiche, and watched the city move around me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt present. The next morning, I visited a museum my husband and I once dreamed of seeing together. As I stood before the artwork, memories washed over me, not painful, but comforting. Then I heard my name. Grace? I turned. Alexander stood there, older now, silver at his temples, but with the same warm eyes. We laughed like no time had passed. We talked for hours. When I told him about Thanksgiving, about feeling pushed aside, he listened without judgment. As the sun dipped low, he said, you shouldn't spend the holiday alone. Join me tomorrow. I said yes. While America gathered around tables, I sat in a candlelit Parisian restaurant. We toasted to second chances. Later, we walked along the river, lights shimmering across the water. That night, I posted a simple photo. 2 friends smiling, the Eiffel Tower glowing behind us. Back home, my son saw it. And everything changed. By morning, the internet had decided I was someone worth noticing. Headlines appeared. Questions exploded. My phone rang. It was Michael. He was crying. Mom. I didn't know you were unhappy. I looked out at the rooftops glowing in the morning sun. I said gently. But I'm not anymore. What followed was something I never expected. Invitations. Opportunities. A charity gala. A stage. A voice I didn't know I still had. I spoke about loss. About being overlooked. About choosing yourself even when it scares you. Women cried. They applauded. They told me I gave them courage. A year has passed since that Thanksgiving. My life is fuller now. Richer. Louder. My son visits often. He listens now. Tara treats me differently, not perfectly, but honestly. I still make pumpkin pie. But now, I invite whoever needs a place to belong. Because I learned something powerful. Being left out isn't always rejection. Sometimes, it's an invitation. An invitation to build a life big enough for yourself. And if this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because it's never too late to begin again.